The first time Lieutenant Logan Stratton saw the alien soldier, it was dragging a steel beam the length of a bus across the tarmac at Fort Elgin as if it were a curtain rod. No grunts, no effort, not even a pause. Just long strides and a blank, unreadable face under a matte black helmet. General Hartley, standing beside Logan, didn't even flinch. "That's Kurok," Hartley said, arms folded behind his back. Genetically optimized by the Varn Dominion to endure the vacuum of space, crush titanium in its grip, and survive direct plasma fire. But more importantly, he turned slightly toward Logan. "He doesn't know how to fight dirty." Logan raised an eyebrow. "And that's where I come in." "You've been in more off-the-books brawls than any officer on this base," Hartley replied. "We need Kurok ready for the Draxon Pit trials. They're not sanctioned combat. There are no rules. The Varn want to win, but won't sully themselves with dishonorable conduct." Logan watched as Kurok finished his task and stood still, like a statue waiting for orders. "So you want me to teach him how to cheat?" Logan said. Hartley gave a half nod. "I want you to teach him how to fight like a human when we're backed into a corner. When fair doesn't cut it." Logan sighed. "All right, but if he crushes me like a soda can, I'm writing my own eulogy." Training began in Hangar 7, a gutted maintenance bay repurposed with reinforced flooring and isolation barriers. Kurok waited in the center, arms behind his back, wearing a tight combat suit of composite fibers that flexed with his movement. His skin, or armor, Logan wasn't sure was the color of dried blood and shimmered faintly under the lights. Logan tossed a duffel bag onto the floor. "We're not sparring today," Logan said. "First, we're talking about what dirty actually means." "I have reviewed human military doctrine," Kurok replied, voice like gravel sliding down a chute. "I know what is considered dishonorable. I was instructed not to engage in such behavior." "Yeah, well, your instructions just changed," Logan said. He pulled out a folding chair, straddled it, and leaned his arms on the back. "You ever get into a fight where the other guy brought a knife to a boxing match?" Kurok tilted his head. "That would be against the stated parameters of the engagement." "Exactly. But it happens. And if you stick to your rules, you lose your throat." Kurok processed the statement in silence. Logan stood. "All right, let's start with something simple." He picked up a handful of gravel from the floor and tossed it at Kurok's face. Kurok didn't flinch. The stones bounced harmlessly off his helmet. "That was not an attack," Kurok said. "It was a distraction." Logan stepped forward and jabbed hard at Kurok's side. His knuckles stung like they'd slammed into a concrete wall. Kurok didn't move. "Okay, you're a brick." "Good to know," Logan muttered, shaking his hand. "But even bricks can trip." He dropped low and swept Kurok's legs. It was like trying to tip a parked car. Kurok took a half step back but remained standing. "You fight with form, discipline, training, but no unpredictability. You don't use the environment. You don't improvise. You don't lie." "I am not programmed to lie," Kurok replied. "Then we're going to start with that." Over the next 2 weeks, Logan pushed Kurok through every dirty trick he knew. Feints, fake surrender, concealed weapons, improvised traps, low blows, and fighting while injured. Logan used sand, rope, even kitchen grease. Twice he got hurt once his shoulder dislocated when Kurok misjudged a throw. Another time, Kurok stepped on his foot mid-sweep and cracked his metatarsals. "That's what I'm talking about," Logan said through clenched teeth as medics wrapped his foot. "You didn't mean to do it, but it worked." "I caused harm by accident," Kurok said. "Exactly. Now learn to do it on purpose." Kurok didn't understand metaphor, or sarcasm, or bluffing. Teaching him was like explaining jazz to a calculator. But slowly, something changed. Kurok began setting up Logan's expectations and breaking them. He learned to fake a limp to draw a strike. He practiced using spilled oil to slide into a tackle. He even used Logan's own shirt as a blindfold mid-fight. One evening, Logan limped into the cafeteria on crutches, foot still healing, and dropped into a chair across from General Hartley. "He's getting it," Logan said. "But he doesn't like it." "He doesn't have to like it," Hartley replied. "He just has to win." The Draxon Pit trials were held on a deep orbit station outside recognized space. No flags, no treaties, just the worst fighters from 21 species, thrown into a ring that changed shape every round. Logan sat in the observation booth with a wrap around his ribs and a knee brace. Kurok stood in the prep room below, quiet as always. "He's not ready," a Varn handler said to the side. He degraded his training with human corruption. You'll see, Logan muttered. The first round was against a four-limbed Karthak bruiser, twice Kurok's size. The arena floor shifted underfoot, becoming a slanted incline with rotating panels. The Karthak charged. Kurok sidestepped, feigned a stumble, then yanked a loose panel and used it to vault over his opponent. He landed behind the Karthak, swept both legs, and drove its head into the metal floor. The crowd roared, half in shock. Second round, a pair of twin-bodied Yulin fighters. Kurok let them flank him, then used one as a shield against the other, locking their limbs together. He broke their formation with a headbutt and used a broken pipe to deliver an electric shock from exposed wiring in the floor. Logan leaned forward, heart pounding. By the fourth round, the crowd had nicknamed him the Red Ghost. Not because he vanished, but because he did things no one expected from a Varn. A species known for order, not chaos. In the final round, Kurok faced a Draxan champion who fought with venom-tipped wrist blades and a cloaking shroud. Halfway through, the lights failed engineered sabotage. Kurok stood still, eyes scanning the dark. Then he reached into his own chest armor and pulled free a glow core. He crushed it in his palm, flooding the area with ultraviolet light. The cloaked Draxan shimmered into visibility. Kurok moved like a shadow, caught the Draxan mid-lunge, and slammed him into the jagged floor until he stopped moving. Silence. Then a wave of cheers and disbelief. Later, in the debriefing chamber, Logan walked in with a cane and a grin. You rewired the game, he said. Kurok stood by the window, looking out at the stars. I did what was necessary. Logan nodded. You lied. You faked. You improvised. You fought dirty. I adapted. You learned. Kurok turned. I did not enjoy it. You weren't supposed to. You were supposed to survive it. Kurok looked at Logan's cane, then back at the stars. Your methods are inefficient. Risky. Painful. Yeah, Logan said. But sometimes, pain is the only teacher that sticks. Kurok didn't respond. But he didn't look away either. 2 months later, Logan returned to Fort Elgin, foot healed, ribs still sore. Kurok remained off-world, assigned to frontier security. Hartley met Logan at the gate. You did good, he said. Logan shrugged. You did better. Would you do it again? Logan looked out over the field, soldiers jogging drills in the morning haze. With the right pain meds? Maybe. Hartley chuckled once. You taught a super soldier how to cheat without breaking the machine. That's not nothing. No, Logan said. It's war. And war's never clean. He walked away, cane tapping quietly on the concrete, the echo of Kurok's final fight still playing in his mind. It had been 9 days since Kurok returned to the Varn fleet. Logan counted them by the ache in his knee when the weather changed. He hadn't expected to feel anything about the alien's departure, but the silence left behind had a weight to it, like someone had taken a picture off the wall and left the nail. The kind of absence that reminded you something used to hang there. The rehab ward smelled like antiseptic and boiled cabbage. Logan sat on the edge of a padded bench as Captain Eddings, a stocky medic with a careless beard and a doctorate in orthopedic trauma, rotated his leg with both hands. Your anterior joint's still inflamed, Eddings said. You've got 2 options, limited activity or another round of injections. And before you ask, no, I don't care if you're bored. Logan winced as Eddings pressed into the side of his knee. I barely moved all week. You limped 4 kilometers to the range and tried to deadlift a field crate. That counts. I was testing the limits. You found them. Congratulations. There was a knock at the door. A technician leaned in, holding a sealed packet. Priority transmission came through the Delta relay. Addressed to Lieutenant Stratton. Logan took the packet, broke the seal, and unfolded the contents. The message was short, handwritten, and slightly smudged with something that looked like oil. I require further instruction. Location follows. Coordinates were scribbled beneath the message. They pointed to a Varn observation post near the Rut-Elon Divide, an unmapped stretch of space known more for gravitational anomalies than diplomatic visits. Eddings tapped the folded note. That from your titanium friend? Looks like it. You're not cleared for field duty. I'm not going for duty, Logan said, standing slowly. This is a house call. He left the ward, limping but determined, and requisitioned a transport under the pretense of a supply reconnaissance. No one asked questions. No one ever did when you looked like you knew where you were going. It took 4 hours to reach the divide. The observation post was less a base and more a floating scaffold with a pressurized dome. No flags. No lights. Just a docking collar and a dark window that looked like a closed eye. Logan docked and cycled through the airlock. The interior was dry and quiet, lit by thin bands of blue along the floor. Kurok stood in the center of the dome, surrounded by open crates. Each one held pieces of disassembled Tech-Varn weapons, human tools, even fragments of Draxan armor. "You were decorating?" Logan asked, stepping inside. Kurok turned. "I have questions." "Of course you do." Kurok gestured to a table covered in scattered items. This was taken from a defeated Yulin operative. Its function is unclear. Logan picked up the object. It was a flattened cylinder with two retractable prongs. He clicked the base, and a low hum filled the air. "It's a shock baton. Civilian crowd control. Stings like hell, but won't kill you unless you lick it. I do not understand the purpose of licking weapons. It's a figure of speech." Kurok paused. "Your species uses many of those. That's because we learned saying things straight doesn't always get the point across. Sometimes you need to dance around the truth. I do not dance. Yet." Kurok stared at the baton, then set it down with exaggerated care. "I require instruction beyond tactics." Logan raised an eyebrow. "You want philosophy now? I wish to understand why your kind chooses to remain unpredictable, even to your own detriment." "That's a long answer. I am not limited by time." Logan sat on an upturned crate. "All right, you want to know why we act against our own interests? Try being stuck in a snowstorm with no shelter. You eat old crackers and sleep under a deflated raft. Then someone shows up with a flamethrower and a smile, and you make a tent out of melted plastic and hope. It's not smart, but it's survival. You act from desperation. Sometimes. But sometimes we act because we don't like being told what the rules are." Kurok folded his arms. "I am not desperate, but I am changing." Logan looked at the scattered gear, then back at the alien. "You're trying to figure out what you are now, aren't you? I was made to follow instructions. Now I question them. That's dangerous. It is also necessary." Logan leaned forward. "You didn't ask me here just to talk about metaphors." Kurok hesitated, something he'd never done before. Then he stepped aside, revealing a body on a medical stretcher. It was humanoid, but the skin was a translucent gray, and the limbs ended in hooked joints. A long gash ran from its shoulder to its hip, stitched with what looked like melted wire. "He was my opponent during a sparring exercise. He yielded. I did not stop." Logan stepped closer. The alien's chest rose and fell faintly. "You didn't kill him. I would have. I did not know how to stop." Logan checked the vitals. The creature's pulse was thin but steady. "You called me here because you're afraid of what you're becoming. I do not want to become human. I want to understand restraint." Logan opened one of the crates and pulled out a thermal blanket. He draped it over the wounded alien, then turned back to Kurok. "Restraint's not about holding back your strength. It's about knowing what not to use. You don't hold a match over gasoline just because you can. I was never taught to hold back. Now you are." Kurok stood still, processing. Hours passed. Logan treated the alien's injuries, using what supplies he had. Kurok watched, silent, never touching, never interrupting. Eventually, the wounded figure stabilized, its breathing deeper. Logan sat back against the wall, rubbing his eyes. "You bring people here often?" "No, well, next time, a bed would be nice. You may use mine. I do not require sleep." "That explains a lot." A low chime echoed through the post. Kurok moved to a console and tapped the interface. "A Varn retrieval ship is approaching. They seek the injured operative." Logan stood. "If they find him here, and you out of uniform, they're going to start asking questions. I will tell them he was injured during sanctioned training. That won't explain the human medic. I will say you were present as an observer. They'll smell the lie." I modified the ventilation. Logan stared. "You planned this." "I anticipated the need for a scapegoat." "You are efficient in that role." Logan laughed, despite himself. "You really are learning." The retrieval ship docked 20 minutes later. Kurok met the boarding party with calm authority, his posture rigid, his words clipped. Logan remained in the shadows, out of view, while the stretcher was taken aboard under sedation. Once the ship departed, silence returned to the outpost. Logan exhaled. "So, what now? I will remain here. There are still things I do not understand. You want me to stay? I need you to." Logan looked at the crates, the makeshift infirmary, the strange quiet hum of Varn architecture. Then he looked at Kurok, no longer just a soldier, but something else forming. I'll need coffee. And a real chair. I can replicate both. Then replicate some painkillers while you're at it. My knee feels like it's chewing on rocks. Kurok nodded once. Then, for the first time, he sat beside Logan, not as a student or a weapon, but as something closer to kin. Not quite human, not quite Varn, but something born in the space between. There was no ceremony, no declaration, just the quiet ticking of shared silence and the slow, strange work of building a new kind of logic. One that bent, but didn't break. The station's artificial morning cycle washed the dome in a pale amber glow barely distinguishable from the previous lighting. Logan awoke inside a collapsible cot wedged between two crates of ration packs and a dismantled satellite dish. His back protested the choice of bedding immediately. Across the room, Kurok stood as he always did, motionless, eyes focused on something invisible, like he was monitoring a war that hadn't started yet. His armor had been stripped down to a flexible exoframe, exposing sinewy musculature and a lattice of embedded circuitry that throbbed faintly beneath his skin. You ever sit down, or is it against your religion? Logan rubbed the side of his neck with one hand and reached for the water pouch dangling from a hook. There is no orthodoxy prohibiting rest. I simply do not require it. Must be nice, Logan muttered, taking a sip. I feel like I aged 5 years overnight. You slept for 4 hours. That is considered insufficient by human standards. I wasn't asking for commentary. Kurok turned slightly. You twitched repeatedly. And muttered. Logan groaned. Dreams. The brain's way of filing trauma under creative writing. Do they serve a purpose? Sometimes. But mostly they just remind you of things you thought you'd buried. Kurok didn't answer. He returned his gaze to the viewport, where the Ruttilon divide shimmered like a bruise in space. Dense and unreadable. You've been staring at that swill for hours. What's out there? Radiation pockets. Gravitational distortions. Debris from ancient conflict. Possibly remnants of lost vessels. Well, that's cheerful. I am observing patterns. Attempting to determine whether the divide is expanding. Logan lowered the water pouch. Wait, expanding? That thing eats stars now? Not consuming. Displacing. Space within the anomaly is destabilized. If the shift continues, it will reroute navigational lanes across 3 sectors. Why hasn't Command flagged it? Because the Varn do not consider it tactically significant. And your species lacks sufficient data. So you're doing it yourself? I had the time. Logan stood slowly, favoring his left leg. You still haven't told me why you really called me here. I did. No, you told me you needed instruction. But this looks more like isolation than education. Kurok was silent for a beat too long. I required human proximity, he said finally. That's either the most flattering or most suspicious thing anyone's ever said to me. You possess responses I am unable to forecast. It is useful to be near unpredictability when attempting to model it. So I'm a chaos generator. Correct. Controlled exposure increases tolerance. Logan chuckled under his breath. And here I thought we were bonding. I do not know if that is occurring. That makes 2 of us. The conversation paused as a low vibration passed through the floor. Kurok moved instantly, checking the console on the eastern wall. Proximity alert. A vessel is approaching on silent drift. Silent drift. Logan limped over. Pirates. Unlikely. The vector suggests a mechanical failure or deliberate stealth. Either way, not good. Kurok expanded the view. A small courier-class vessel, unmarked, rotated slowly as it neared the station. It had no running lights and expelled no heat signature. Dead ship. Life support is still functioning. No distress signal. A minute passed before docking clamps engaged, hissing as the airlock sealed. Kurok didn't draw a weapon, but his fingers twitched near the panel that controlled internal pressure valves. The door opened. A figure stepped through slowly, wearing a sealed EVA suit. The visor was opaque, but the stance was wrong, slouched, nervous, arms held too close to the body. Kurok blocked the entrance with one arm. Identify yourself. The figure raised both hands, then tapped the side of the helmet. The visor cleared, revealing a pale, green-hued face with narrow ridges across the brow. Not Varn. Not Draxon. Not human. Logan stepped forward. That's a Trilari. Haven't seen one this far out since the war ended. The alien's lips moved slowly. I come with no weapon. I seek only medical assistance. She's injured, Logan said quickly. Look at the left side of her suit. Seal's compromised. Kurok stepped back, just enough. The Trilari stumbled forward, clutching her side. Thin purple fluid leaked from the suit seal. Logan caught her under one arm and guided her down onto a nearby bench. You're lucky we had a slow morning. Kurok, get the med kit. Kurok didn't move. She could be bait. She's bleeding. I don't think that's a tactic. Kurok retrieved the kit, then stood near the door, watching. Logan peeled back the damaged suit. The wound was a deep puncture, likely from shrapnel or an impact spike. Pale tissue pulsed around it, sticky and inflamed. Pressure's dropping. She needs clotting foam. That compound is toxic to Trilari biochemistry. Use the amber vial. Logan raised an eyebrow. How do you know that? I reviewed the medical profiles of all known species before your arrival. I was preparing for variables. Logan applied the amber gel. It hissed against the wound, then settled into a firm seal. The Trilari exhaled, then blinked slowly. Thank you. Name? Sarai. I was a systems analyst aboard the courier Vexel. We were attacked by scavengers. I escaped before they boarded. You jumped into the divide? That's suicide. No choice. Better the anomalies than what they were doing to the crew. Kurok took a step forward. You are not lying. I wouldn't waste what breath I've got left. Logan looked at the bloodied gloves on his hands. We can't keep her here. We're not equipped for long-term care. There is a Varn patrol sweep scheduled within 2 days. If she remains stable, extraction is possible. 2 days is a long time for a bleeding analyst with cracked ribs and no immune boosters. She will survive. Sarai looked between them. I didn't mean to cause trouble. You didn't, Logan said. Kurok's just allergic to surprises. I am not allergic. I am cautious. Logan cleaned the tools, then tossed the soiled dressings into a sealed bin. We'll need to monitor her vitals every few hours. If the wound degrades, we don't have the resources to stabilize her again. I will watch her. Sarai leaned back, eyes fluttering closed. Several hours passed. Logan sat cross-legged near the console, scanning the divide for fluctuations. Kurok remained beside Sarai, monitoring her breathing with mechanical consistency. She's dreaming, Kurok said suddenly. Probably reliving the ambush. She said the scavengers were violent. They usually are. I considered what I would have done in her place. I would have killed the intruders. Quickly. She didn't have that option. Then she chose the anomaly. Risked death for uncertainty. That's what humans do too. When all the doors are locked, we pick the one that looks like it might explode. Kurok looked down at Sarai, then at the sealed wound. She is not a soldier. But she acted with resolve. She did what she had to. Kurok stood. I understand now. Understand what? Why you taught me to fight without rules. Logan waited. You weren't teaching me to win. You were teaching me to survive when survival makes no sense. Logan nodded once. I will remain at her side, Kurok said, until extraction arrives. Logan rose to his feet, joints protesting. You do that. I'll reroute power to the med station. Try not to scare her when she wakes up. Humor is not necessary. Neither was saving her, but we did it anyway. Kurok didn't answer. He returned to his vigil, silent, steady. By the second morning, Sarai was strong enough to sit up. The patrol vessel arrived 3 hours later, scanned her identity, and departed with minimal questions. No one asked why a human and a Varn were working together in an abandoned outpost. Logan watched the ship disappear into the divide's edge. You still think unpredictability is a flaw? Kurok considered the question. No, it is a catalyst. Good, because I'm not getting any more predictable. I would be concerned if you did. Logan gathered his gear. The cot folded neatly. The mess was cleaned. No trace of Sarai remained, except a faint bloodstain on the bench. You staying here? For now. There is still data to parse. Logan hesitated. You ever want to visit Earth, you've got a place on my couch. Just don't crush the floorboards. I will consider it. They didn't shake hands. They didn't say goodbye. Logan stepped through the docking hatch, already wincing at the thought of gravity reasserting itself. Behind him, the station remained quiet. One Varn soldier. One anomaly. And a memory of something not quite war, not quite peace, but undeniably human. Back aboard his shuttle, Logan exhaled. The engines hummed to life. He didn't look back. Kurok didn't need a witness.